You were the only player in history that hit 25 homers, 100 RBIs, won a Gold Glove, and had 10 defensive runs saved, and didn't get a single MVP vote. It's the first time it's ever happened. Do you ever feel like an underdog?
I like feeling like I haven't earned it. It's a good spot for me to play from. Extremely motivating. I wouldn't change it.
Yeah.
Definitely wouldn't change it, but I like that underdog role for sure.
Well, it's worked out for sure. But
winning the national title, it feels fake even talking about it. I still watch the College World Series on TV, and I love following the guys play. I remember the city of Omaha that year embracing it. I felt like it was like a hometown thing. You'd walk around the streets of Main Street, and you obviously have your college gear on, and the fans and the city was excited to come watch us play. Like they were rooting for us for some reason.
Kind of the adopted teams. I don't know if you understood the magnitude of that, because you're not from Columbia, you're from Pennsylvania. I think it was the first major sports national championship in the history of the school. How incredible was that, celebrating with your teammates and bringing that championship to Columbia?
You get back home.
Oh yeah.
And you land at the airport, and the bus ride in, there's fire trucks parked on the side of the roads, and there's fans waving Gamecock flags at the bus on the highway, and it was it literally felt like a movie. You're learning how big of a deal it is as it's happening, and also even more proud that you were a part of something like that.
Welcome to the second episode of the Whole Lotta Glove podcast. I'm honored to have one of my good buddies, Christian Walker, three-time Gold Glove winner, All-American, All-SEC, just signed with the Houston Astros. We'll get into that. But Christian, welcome. Tell us a little bit. Actually, let's start with the first important question, the Eagles. I know you're a big Eagles fan. You've been watching the games. Give us your prediction for this Sunday. You think they're going to make it?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, confident. I think Washington's a solid team.
Yeah.
But something about a blowout game like they had last week, I feel like it's going to be a hard energy to hold up. So.
Do you think they got a better shot against the Bills or the Chiefs? I think the Eagles are going to move on.
Yeah, that's tough. I don't ever want to face Mahomes in the postseason, but I mean, you can't sleep on Allen and the Bills either.
No.
I think it's going to be a dogfight regardless.
It'll be a good one. But so let's start there. You're from right outside of Philadelphia, right? Like 30 minutes outside. Is that safe to say?
Yep.
What made you want to come to South Carolina? Was it the facilities? Was it Coach Tanner, Coach Holbrook? Because at that point, they didn't really have the history that they have now that you guys brought them. What was the recruiting process like? What other schools were you talking to? That kind of thing.
Yeah. So just outside of Philly, just a suburb. My high school team was in the Philadelphia Catholic League, so played there. A lot of inner city schools, which was great. But being up north, trying to chase the warm weather, you get involved with the travel ball team. Summer's fine, but once the fall comes, it's too cold. So do a lot of tournaments in North Carolina, Virginia. You chase down south. But for us, it was honestly, I didn't think I was as good as everybody was talking. Like I felt like I was tricking somebody. All of a sudden, South Carolina was interested, and it was like, oh man, like never saw this coming. We were looking at like some smaller schools in Pennsylvania. Didn't do any official visits or anything like that. To be honest, I committed pretty early. It was we were trying to dance around NCAA violations where I had to commit almost through like a third party and all that stuff. So wanted to make sure we did it the right way. But it was early. It was the summer going into my sophomore year.
Really?
I believe. So very early.
Yeah.
But yeah, I felt like it was like, oh man, let me hurry up and commit before they they find out what's going on. But honestly, just overwhelmed that a team like South Carolina, a school like South Carolina, was even interested.
Yeah.
They had the clout offensively, which at the time I was a hitter. That's all I wanted to do was hit homers. So interested there. Obviously Tanner had the reputation, and I know that they didn't win a bunch of natties up until then, but always saw them in supers, always saw them in regionals, stuff like that. So was just honestly super humbled to be offered a scholarship.
Yeah, and another cool thing you got to do in high school, the power showcase. Everyone talks, the YouTube video, Bryce Harper hitting a 502-foot home run or whatever. Nobody talks about that Christian Walker won that event, right? I actually got to participate in that event. Really cool down at Tropicana Field. Talk a little bit about Bryce Harper. Just seeing him in person, I think he was 16 years old at the time. How impressive was it? And then how cool is it to say that, you beat him? I think I saw Randall Grichuk and a few other future big leaguers were in that event. Talk a little bit about that event.
Yeah, it was great. Great event, like you said, at the Trop. At least one person from every state. I think the bigger states had a few representatives. So 70 hitters, something like that.
Yeah.
Crazy event all day, BP homers. Like I got a chance to play with Gritch this past year. So we were pulling up the YouTube videos of the Derby and all that, which was fun. But surprisingly, a good number of guys you cross paths with later, that bring up the Derby or remember watching the Derby.
Yeah.
Obviously got a ton of steam from Harper and that, that 500-foot homer. And it hit the back wall of the Trop. It was impressive.
Yeah.
But yeah, cool to win it. A bunch of great hitters. How much was it luck? How much was skill? Who knows? But yeah, it was a cool thing to add to the resume.
Yeah. And then, so you get to South Carolina, your first fall. How did you get acclimated to, like you said, the great weather, new teammates, new surroundings? You're away from home for the first time. Did you do well your first fall? Did you have an idea that, hey, I might have a good chance to play pretty early here in my career?
Yeah. So obviously play first base now, but came in as a third baseman. Yeah. Seemed like there was an opportunity to play third there. Didn't really know too much about it, right? Like I said, coming from the Northeast, like I knew the SEC was big time ball and high expectations, but it was almost like an ignorance is bliss type thing. Like I was just happy to be coming to school down south, and I think it helped me because I didn't put too much pressure on the unknowns of like what are these guys like? How good are these players? What level am I gonna have to play at? Am I good enough to do it? It was like I felt like I was just riding the wave to some extent, and came right in, and it was no secret that Tanner was gonna be hard on us. He kicked our butts pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, had a really good fall. I remember hitting 300 or 400 or something through fall scrimmages, and it was small sample size, but felt like obviously much better than high school ball, but I felt like I could compete. And then all of a sudden it felt like I was competing for a job to play third base, and it was exciting.
Did you play third your whole freshman year?
Not my whole year.
You switched over?
Yeah. The opening weekend,
So it was
third base.
Ebert at first?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. But started right away at third base. Then I sort of started scuffling at the plate. Went to not playing every day for a week or two, and then pretty quickly an opportunity popped up at first, and I just wanted to get back in the lineup. So I was like, yeah, sure.
Well, you had
base.
a good freshman year. I mean, most freshmen in the SEC don't even sniff the numbers. I think you hit around 320, 9 homers, 50 RBIs or so. But you get to the postseason for the first time. We got to talk about the Coastal home run. I'm sure Carolina fans, when you talk to them, they bring that up. I think a lot of people would say probably the biggest home run in the history of the school. I mean, sent us to Omaha, ended up obviously winning the national championship. What do you remember about, if you remember that at bat, the atmosphere? And I was a junior in high school. I don't remember it well, but wasn't it not at Coastal's Field? Wasn't it at?
It was the River Dog Stadium, I believe. I'm not sure the name of that stadium.
What was the reason for that?
I don't really remember, to be honest.
Just showed up and played.
Yeah, I don't remember why the site was different. But I remember the at-bat before that, striking out on a similar sequence. Breaking ball, and then went fastball in and froze me.
Yeah.
Struck out looking, got back to the dugout. Tanner got on
ripped
me.
You.
Yeah, just brutal. But I remember getting into that next at-bat. Same thing, breaking ball, strike one, breaking ball, strike two, and was like, oh,
Here
no.
we go again.
Yeah, like just do not freeze on this fastball. And felt like they were going to repeat the same sequence.
Yeah.
Spiked another breaking ball, and then the fourth pitch hung that one that I ended up hitting. But maybe I was looking in, which is kind of where it landed. It backed up a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe it was Tanner in the back of my head, but I think one of the bigger home runs I've hit in my career as well.
Yeah, and I saw it on TV. It had to be one of the furthest you had hit to that point in your career. I mean, it was. I think it went over the whole stadium, if I remember correctly. But so that sends y'all to Omaha. You lose the first game. Is that right? To Oklahoma. Lose to Oklahoma.
Yeah. Long marathon game. Couple rain delays. Just couldn't get the momentum going.
Beat Arizona State, and we'll get to it in a little bit. But starts probably the most improbable, unbreakable streak that'll ever happen in collegiate athletics. We'll get to that in a little bit, but go on to get to the national championship, sweep UCLA. I don't know if you understood the magnitude of that because you're not from Columbia, you're from Pennsylvania. I mean, it was probably awesome, but to see the parade and to see the jubilation on the people's faces, talk us through the dog pile, winning that first national championship. I think it was the first major sports national championship in the history of the school. How incredible was that, celebrating with your teammates and bringing that championship to Columbia?
Yeah, incredible.
Yeah.
I think it all, the magnitude of it all became obvious once we got to Omaha. Like, super excited to win, the Super in advance and all that. But getting to Omaha, seeing the stage, seeing Rosenblatt in person for the first time. I still remember driving up the hill. You can see it at the top, like all the different colored seats.
Yeah.
You could feel the history in that stadium. So as soon as we got there, and all of a sudden ESPN cameras were everywhere. It was a special moment for sure. But to come back through the losers bracket, I think is crazy.
Yeah.
With that talent, with that competition, so much has to go right, and you have to earn those wins. Like anybody can win those games. You always see a Cinderella school come through and win a national championship or get close. So earning all those games and earning those wins, and then obviously, the winning the national title. Crazy. Like it feels fake even talking about it. I still watch the College World Series on TV, and I love following the guys play. And the storylines are amazing. And I remember the city of Omaha that year embracing us. That was like our cool thing. I felt like it was like a hometown thing. You'd walk around the streets of Main Street, and you obviously have your college gear on, and the fans and the city was excited to come watch us play. Like they were rooting for us for some reason, and it was cool. It was very
kind
cool.
of the adopted team. So what about the parade? All right, the 50,000, 100,000, however many people were there. How cool was that to do that with your teammates and coaches?
Yeah, amazing. It felt like something for a Super Bowl or a World Series, like just 10 deep on either side of the street as far as you can see. Got to the State House, get up on the stairs, look back out, and what felt like a million people standing out in the city. I remember people up on balconies of the buildings, and so cool. You're learning how big of a deal it is as it's happening, and also even more proud that you were a part of something like that. So cool, such an honor. And you feel the fan base, like proud of what we did, but doing it in a neutral spot like Omaha is great, but you don't feel the same way. And then you get back home and you land at the airport, and the bus ride in, there's fire trucks parked on the side of the roads, and there's fans waving Gamecock flags at the bus on the highway. And it was it literally felt like a movie. It was awesome.
Well, and we just talked about your recruiting process that had to justify your decision to come here. You come in first year national championship, and then we get into your second year. All right, now you kind of got the target on your back. Everyone's gunning for the reigning champions. The record that year, 55-14, 36-4 at home. A lot of returning players from that previous year. Did y'all talk in the locker room like, hey, we got to back this thing up. People are going to be coming for us. We're the reigning champs, or was it just kind of business as usual?
I think business as usual. I think we knew that, but that chip felt so natural. Did you say 36-4?
Yeah,
that's crazy. I didn't even know that. Yeah, that like. So, I think what I felt that second year was like just confident and belief in who we are. Like it felt like it didn't matter who you matched us up against, we were going to go out and win.
Yeah.
I think the midweek games, it was like, no brainer. Like, you lose, you drop a couple here and there, but like even the SEC matchups, it was like, all right, who's it going to be? It's going to be us and who else at the final. But we just expected it. Maybe it was like arrogance at that point, right?
Yeah.
But I think whatever it was, the recipe worked for us on the field. But just super, super confident, and I think comfortable with the target on our back.
Yeah.
Never did it feel like too much. Did it feel like the moment was like getting too big, or we were expecting too much, or being like, silly with it? It was like, no, we're good. We're gonna win.
Yeah.
Like we're just gonna win because we're better than everybody, and we trust ourselves out there.
Yeah. Compare the 2011 team to the 2010 team. Was it very similar as far as personalities in the clubhouse, or did anybody come in that changed anything, or was it kind of the same vibes in the clubhouse?
I think similar from what I remember. Like a solid core group of guys. Like I think another good class of freshmen. Obviously, like that moves the needle each year on a team, right?
Yeah.
The recruits, the new guys that come in. But I think for me, it was like the first time going through Omaha in 10, we knew we were good. We knew we wanted to win. We knew we were capable of winning, but you're learning as you go. Mm-hmm. Each game you play is now this is the biggest game I've ever played. Now this is right. It's like it keeps building. And then after, I think, coming through the losers bracket, playing as many games as we could, winning, starting the year good, feeling like we didn't lose too many guys. Felt like we knew what to expect, right?
Yeah.
It was like, yeah, we're good. We know that. But also, we've played every big game that you could play.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't feel like there was going to be any more surprises.
Yeah. And it's completely different path to the championship from the 2010 team. 2010, like you said, y'all had to come through the losers bracket. 2011, swept the regional, swept super regional, swept Omaha. Didn't lose a single game. Had some crazy games in there. If I remember correctly, Virginia, Florida, out in Omaha, just like you said, marathon type games. But the confidence that y'all showed on the field, I mean, you could see it on TV. It was, like you said, y'all expected to win every game. So you win the national championship again. And, you saw Jackie throw the ball in the crowd. It's almost like y'all expected it. He wasn't jumping for joy or going nuts. It was just an expected thing. So compare, you get back to Columbia, compare that celebration, that parade from 2010 to 2011.
Yeah, I remember getting back and going right to Colonial Life, I think, and not really knowing what was going on. Like you play this game, you're excited, you travel home, you're on a plane, you're on a bus again. You finally get home, you're like, nice, like go to the house and chill, relax a little bit. The bus goes to Colonial Life, kind of takes a back way in. We're like, what's going on? And let us off the bus, right onto the court, and the stadium's full of people.
Yeah.
Like a little welcome home situation, right? You're like right fresh from Omaha. I remember that being a really special moment.
Yeah.
Maybe because we were surprised, or it was always so crazy how quick it was of like the city couldn't wait to celebrate with us. Mm-hmm. Like they were cheering for us, right? But it felt like they just wanted to be a part of what we experienced. Like we had fans out there in Omaha. We had Gamecocks that travel. The fan base is great. We travel well, but there's a lot of people that can't go.
Yeah.
So to get back and be in our home city and feel the love like that was awesome.
Yeah. Which stadium did you like better, Rosenblatt or TD?
I think Rosenblatt for me. I don't know if it's the history. It was a much better hitter's park.
Yeah. Oh God.
Yeah. So a lot happened, right? Like the bats had changed right at then. The park got a little bigger. I think TD was state of the art, beautiful, anything you could ask for.
Felt a little more corporate, I feel like.
Agree.
Yeah.
Agree.
Rosenblatt's just chaos.
Yeah. Those Rosenblatt games were special.
Yeah. Side topic here. How many home runs do you think you would have hit with the old bats? Because you played in the dead bat era. I mean, I remember my freshman year when we were out in Omaha, you hit 5 or 6 balls that we all thought off the bat, no doubter, and all of them either hit the wall or were caught at the wall. How many do you think you would have hit?
Oh, man. That's the thing. I feel like I really didn't start learning how to hit homers until Double-A.
Yeah.
I think if I would have had a little bit more time to figure out how to hit the ball in the air, I feel like I could have posted some good numbers. I always hit balls really hard.
Yeah.
I just wasn't sure how to get them in the air all the time.
All right. So back-to-back national champions, you get to your junior year. You're kind of the man now. The older guys, did you feel kind of like the elder statesman? You got me and like 4 or 5 other freshmen in the lineup, and you guys are 2-time national champions. Did it feel like you had more of a responsibility to be that elder statesman, or was it, because y'all instilled in us, said, hey, we expect to win another one. From day one, we're going to win the third one. So what was your mindset going into that junior year? And, a lot of people don't talk about the draft pressure. Junior year is your draft year. You didn't strike me as a type that really thought about that. It was just about winning. Yeah.
I try to be that way. I try to make it about the game. It's baseball. I mean, baseball is one of those games, like the more you think about the stuff, it makes the game muddy and unclear. And I think college is so fun for me to watch because the age of the guys. Like now being a leader in a clubhouse means something completely different than it meant at the time.
Yeah.
Right. Just different things, less exposure to the game. Like it can be refreshing. It can be fun. But I think I always wanted to be a leader in the clubhouse. But if you would ask me what that meant at the moment, like, who knows? Like, right? Like be somebody that these guys want to hang out with. Be like a fun guy who can like hang out away from the field. We can have a good time at the field, like all the things. And I'd like to think I was a part of that, that leadership group, but it's hard to say looking back. And I think your class was elite. I mean, like, I can't name a better recruiting class coming in. Like, immediately it was like, oh, yep, this is our guy behind the plate. Like, there are a couple guys that are going to be out in the infield. It's like, yep, confident in them for sure. But that's what makes college ball fun and refreshing, is like every year, new wave of guys.
Yeah.
Like, you can't run out the same lineup 5-6 years in a row.
Well, our class might have been rated higher, but y'all's class, 3 years, 3 national championship appearances and 2 titles. So I think I'll give that to you guys. But so like I said, that was my freshman year, getting to play. I mean, it was weird for me. I'm from Columbia. I grew up the biggest Carolina fan. I was terrified to come into the clubhouse with guys like you, Roth, Matt Price. I've been watching y'all on TV for the last 2 or 3 years. So y'all were incredible leaders, and y'all made it extremely easy to be in that clubhouse. But another good regular season. We get to the postseason, same thing. Sweep regionals, sweep super regionals, get to Omaha, and we win our first game. Talk about that streak, 22 straight postseason games. I don't know if anybody will ever get to like 8. I think it's the most unbreakable streak in sports. Give me your opinion on that.
Yeah, I agree.
And you were in the heart of all 22 of those games.
I agree. I think obviously the national championships are amazing. Yeah. It changed my baseball life, but I think that record is the most proud. Like, that's the thing I'm most proud of. I think it's like you said, because how many things need to go right. I think postseason games at Carolina, when you're playing at home, it's like you're not beating.
Not gonna lose.
Yeah, it's just like we got it. Like so, I think hosting the second and third year was a big part of that. Yeah. But then you still got a dozen games in Omaha. Like, there's a lot of games that are on neutral turf there. So I think somewhere between like the momentum, believing, we I remember Tanner always yelling at us in not a good way of like, oh, you guys think you know who you are. But I think we did. I think we had something, whether it was true or not, that we bought into. And I think it's fun to think back at how serious those moments can feel, but then you think about all the funny stuff behind the scenes and just like the characters you cross paths with.
Oh yeah. I mean, you look at your 3-year college career, right? Like I said, 3 national championship appearances, 2 titles, 1 runner-up. Who were some of the guys, like glue guys in the clubhouse, guys that maybe the regular person may not know about, didn't play a whole lot, but just if they weren't in that clubhouse, who knows what happens? I think of a guy like Pat Sullivan, a guy like Nolan Belcher, Logan Munson, some of the funny guys that kind of kept it light, and then some guys that did play who you thought maybe was kind of an X factor for those 3 teams. Because guys like you and Marzilli, y'all were here 3 years. Like I said, the 3 national championship appearances. Give a couple of those guys, some of your teammates that really promoted that team forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Mars is his route to playing. He had to earn every inning that he played. Wasn't supposed to play as a freshman, ended up earning his way in the lineup. Like, always got chalked up as like, like, talk about an underdog and somebody who like resonated with that role and thrived in that role. A roommate of mine, loved the guy to death, but he earned every ounce of success that he had on the baseball field. Like, you have to acknowledge Jackie and Witt. The skill set was unbelievable. Roth's, like, what Journey. He did, like, that's crazy. That guy was getting pinch hits like most of my freshman year, right? And then the best college pitcher ever. Like, just a crazy recipe of guys. And then all the guys that you mentioned. Belch, Sully was the first guy who came to mind. Like leading the shenanigans, like the behind the scenes, like good energy guy, someone you want to hang out with all the time, can make you laugh, can keep it light. But yeah, I mean, just a blessing. A lot of those guys I still talk to. Most of those guys I still talk to.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have guys like that in a clubhouse. Maybe not in a professional clubhouse, which there are some guys like that, but in a college clubhouse with 35 guys, not everyone's going to get a chance to play, and the worst thing you can have in today's day and age with NIL and the transfer portal, sometimes you're going to have that, not fights, but friction in the clubhouse. Whereas back when we played, you didn't really have that. Guys knew their role. So you get into pro ball, drafted in the 4th round after your junior year, assuming didn't really think about coming back. you go through the normal minor league path. You end up making your debut in 2014. Mm-hmm. So you got up there pretty quick, a couple mm-hmm. years. You know, when I talk to my buddies watching you from afar, all we can talk about is how you got hosed for like 4 years. We're like, Christian should be in the big leagues 4 years ago, because every year I think you hit 26 homers in the minors, 28 homers, 32, and you were stuck behind Chris Davis, Paul Goldschmidt. How did you handle that? Did you have a minor league manager sit you down and say, hey, I know you're getting screwed right now, but keep plugging away and you're going to get your chance?
I think, yeah, so everybody, not everybody, but you'd have coaches that would pull you aside and talk to you and check in and make sure everything's good. But something, I don't know, I tried not to complain about it too much. I was aware of it, mm-hmm. but there was something in me that was like, just keep going. Like, I don't know if deep down I knew I still had more to develop. I still had to figure something out about myself. Maybe I wasn't ready. I got up and debuted quick, but the game felt like it was moving fast. Mm-hmm. And I think I would have been fine.
Yeah.
Like if I would have stuck in the big leagues, but I looked at it like I didn't do enough to earn that job. Like at a certain point, I tried to learn a little bit outfield. Mm-hmm. The first base path was pretty unclear with guys like that. It's like, yeah. I don't care how many homers I hit in Norfolk. Chris Davis is their guy.
$200 million in this guy.
Yeah, like he's their guy. Same thing with Goldie. It's like had a really good year in the PCL that year in 17. Mm-hmm. Goldie's your guy. Like I'm not going to beat him out for the first base job when he's around. Like that's just not how it works. But I felt like maybe there was something I was missing. Like I didn't want to get caught up in the swamp of like the negativity. I've played with a lot of guys.
Oh God, yeah.
Really good friends with a lot of those guys. But it's like, man, if you could just get out of your own way, just change how you look at things. And like, I don't know. I just always wanted to make sure that if another opportunity came along, I was going to be ready for it.
Yeah. Yeah. And you did get your opportunity. Arizona gave you an opportunity. Before we get to your career in Arizona, which has been, the last 4 or 5 years, I remember seeing you, I don't know what year it would, I guess it would have been 2017. Was that the year you were in like 4 different spring trainings? Mm-hmm. At one? Yeah. I saw you when we played the Orioles. 2 days later, you were with the Braves.
Yep.
A week later, you were with the Diamondbacks. Talk about the struggle of that spring training and be like, man, why doesn't anybody want me?
Yeah, so really interesting dynamic there. Going into that spring, Davis had just signed the big deal. Mm-hmm. It was like, all right, like now what's the play here? Yeah. And people in baseball always say, like, every time you step on the field, right, you're playing for all the teams. Mm-hmm. Just takes one team. So there was a little bit of like, you hope to get traded, maybe a fresh opportunity. And then all of a sudden they called me in and said, hey, we're going to designate you for assignment. Mm-hmm. And it was like, all right, well, that's not right. Like that feels much different than getting traded, right? Where it's like, all right, yeah, it presents a new opportunity, a new team, fresh eyes, fresh start, all that. Mm-hmm. But also now I'm not on the 40-man roster with a whole new team. And it was like, yeah, there could be some good things here, but it doesn't feel like that right now.
Yeah.
So then at the time you're hoping to get claimed and hoping you land on another 40-man. Mm-hmm. And then it became obvious real quick that I was just going to be in a role where I was just going to try to slip through waivers and land on a team. Yeah. It was like, O's, Braves claimed me a week later, designated me. Reds claimed me. They actually optioned me to minor league camp, designated again. D-backs claimed me. First phone call, Hayes was like, listen, we'll be honest, we're just going to try to get you through waivers here. It's like, oh, cool. At least I know what to expect here. So cleared waivers with the D-backs. Went to Reno that year, and that was 17.
I mean, that had to end up being the biggest blessing of your career. And we'll get to that in a little bit about your relationship with Arizona, them giving you the biggest opportunity to that point. But you get your shot in the big leagues and really stick. Starting in 2019, was that your first year as a full timer? 29 home runs, 28 home runs, 36 home runs. I mean, you started to really, find your position in the big leagues. 3 Gold Gloves, 2022, 2023, 2024. If I would have sat 18-year-old Christian Walker, who said all he wanted to do was hit on that couch at 18 and said you'd have 3 straight Gold Gloves, what would you have said to me?
Yeah, no way I would have believed it. I still don't believe it. Like I look down and see the patch and it fires me up. It's been a cool thing.
It's incredible. And Talk to me a little bit about your approach to your defense, because like you said, you've always been able to hit. You could hit since you were in high school. How much work in comparison to your offense do you give your defensive game?
Yeah.
And especially now that you have the 3 Gold Gloves, you're like, I want to keep this going.
Yeah, for sure. These days, a lot of time in the field. It was never clear how to work on defense. Taking ground balls wasn't fun.
Yeah.
Something I didn't enjoy, probably because I wasn't very good at it. And it was like, I always thought it was something that you either had or you didn't have. Like, oh, this guy's a good defender.
Yeah.
It was like, oh no, it was never like this guy has turned himself into a good defender. It was like, it always felt like, oh, he's always been this way. So something I probably didn't give enough attention to early, because I didn't know how to get better, or that you could even move the needle that much. So got to pro ball, and like the first base thing, it was like, all right, well, I need to learn another position. And then I was bad in the outfield. Like it was tough. It was tough learning. You're like, oh, I catch fly balls.
Everyone thinks outfield's so easy.
Bro, corner outfielder, it kicked my butt. It was tough. But it was like, oh wow, like I'm definitely not going to get to the big leagues, like with this kind of defense.
Yeah.
So it became obvious, like I need to add this as a tool to my toolbox. And lucky for me, I think I crossed paths with Tony Perez Chica right at the right time.
Yeah.
There was a lot to it. I got a chance to watch Goldie. So 19 was my first full season, but 17 I got called up in September. 18 was up and down all year. So I got a chance to watch Goldie firsthand.
Yeah.
And watch how he went about his business and the attention to detail. And I played with Nick Ahmed for 5 years.
Yep.
Another 3-time, 4-time Gold Glove winner, right? Like, it's like I got to figure out what these guys are doing. Like, how are they that much better than everybody? And just picking their brain and working with Tony and the attention to detail. Like, we'll get lost in a batting cage. We've done this for hours, right? Talking about the smallest details.
Yep.
And I didn't realize that you could also be that same way about defense.
Yeah.
It was always like, take a couple ground balls, get ready for the game, go play.
Yeah.
But these days it's very much like, how are my feet? How's my hand work? Transferring balls, making sure my arm swing is clean. Like you're an elite catcher.
Yeah.
You know what that's like.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite drills? Because I know how detailed you are. I've hit with you for countless of hours. I know how detailed you are offensively. What are some of those drills that you're talking about that you've really, especially as you know, you've progressed throughout your career, that you've really developed as part of your routine?
So I think I understand why coaches tell guys this, and at a certain age, it's very important. But I had to learn the narrative early is like 2 hands, right? Yeah. Alligator, like hand on top. I had to learn how to get comfortable with 1 hand. I'm not a free mover. I'm a big body out there. I had to learn how to play angles and get my body out of the way and let my glove work. So I had to get comfortable with 1 hand. So I do a lot of, these days my routine is some knee drills, close work, whether it's a coach rolling ground balls or we have a little machine that shoots little balls, but mini glove, knee work, just working on glove isolation, making sure I'm fine in the pocket, making good decisions when to turn it into a backhand, when to forehand. And then it's a progression from there. I'll go 1 knee, 4 hands, 1 hand, 1 knee, backhands. And then from there, it's a lot about drop stepping. The angles at first base. Luckily, I don't have to field the ball and throw it across the infield.
Right.
So I have time to spend on making sure I'm picking the right bounce, making sure I'm playing the right angle. And if that's drop stepping a couple steps to get a better hop than being in between and having to chest something up. Like, so for me, it was learning the angles of the position and what, right. The smooth is fast, type of mentality of like, just catch it. If you catch the ball, the guy's out.
Yeah.
So making sure everything is about that.
Yeah. How cool are the Gold Glove statues or trophies?
They're awesome. They're heavy.
They look incredible.
They're heavy. They're like 30 pounds.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. They're really cool.
So offensively, like we said earlier, you're a guy that always hit. And anytime anybody asks me about Christian Walker, I say he's one of the 2 or 3 best hitters I've ever played with, and he's probably the smartest hitter I've ever played with. But as you know, sometimes that can be a detriment. I was a catcher. I got myself in a lot of trouble trying to guess what that guy on the mound was throwing. And I feel like your brain works that way too. But, you talk about a guy like Tiger Woods. He won 4 majors in a row and completely overhauled his swing. So how do you balance a guy that now has 4 or 5 years of sustained success, not wanting to tinker? Because I know you're a tinker. I've been in the cage with you for hours. how do you find a balance between, all right, what I'm doing right now is working and always trying to get better?
Yes.
Because I know you're always trying to get that extra 1%.
Yeah, I've always looked at the tinkering as a something that's helped me. Mm-hmm. The reason why I am where I am. Recently, I've been really noticing how much it can get in my way.
Yeah.
Or not giving enough credit to just being in the moment, trusting myself. I don't have to do anything extra. If I'm ready to get a good swing off and I'm ready to make a good decision, like I'll hit the ball hard.
Yeah.
And I think at times backing off of the mechanics and the tinkering helps me build confidence. Because right, you have a tough cage day, mm-hmm. and you're going into the game. It's like, oh man, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like what's my approach? Like we got a former Cy Young winner on the mound tonight. Like what does a successful night even look like right now? Like you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And days like that, when you can snap out of it, buy into yourself, and then you go throw 3 hits out there. That's such a confident building moment where it's like, man, I didn't think about my hand position one time tonight. I didn't think about direction. I didn't think about anything other than like swinging at strikes and being ready to hit a ball hard.
Yeah.
And you threw 3 hits out there.
Yeah.
And it's almost like what could it be this simple?
Why don't I do this every time?
Yeah. And I think there's a time to get lost in the mechanics, and I love it. Honestly, it's like the art of hitting.
Yeah.
That's where I get lost. But there is this whole other side of that art that happens in the batter's box in a moment of competition.
Yeah. I mean, I've talked to you countlessly about hitting, and I believe you could be a college, probably a big league hitting coach, just the way you know the swing, know how the body works, know how to relate to players. Have you ever thought about that when you're done playing, or when you're done playing, do you kind of just want to ride off with your horses into the sunset?
Both. I have. I have spent so much brain power and time and energy and like on this hitting stuff, and it's so much fun. And I've had moments where I've made an adjustment and unlocked something, mm-hmm. and I've had times where like I'll mention, hey, to a teammate, hey, this is what's been working for me. They immediately works for them. And it's like, I'm not being a good coach in that moment. I'm just sharing an experience. Yeah. And when you see somebody have success because of like something you helped them learn, mm-hmm. It's a super cool moment.
Oh yeah.
And I've thought about it. I don't know if that's like a college thing or a pro ball thing, but I think it'd be really cool to coach, be a hitting coach at Carolina someday.
Play 7-8 more years, and then you can make that decision another time. But this past year, you got a lot of time on TV, on the news, your series against the Dodgers. All right. When I was still playing, we would talk all the time, be like, what gives you so much success against Kershaw? And now it's not even Kershaw, it's the entire Dodgers. Is it something about the stadium, the light? I'm sure you've been asked it about the lighting, the batter's eye. What gives you so much success at, probably a top 3 historic venue in baseball? Yeah,
it's hard to say.
Yeah.
But I think once you start having a little success, it's easy to like buy into the momentum, and a confident hitter is a really good hitter. Mm-hmm. But I think it's combination of a few things. I think the stadium is a great place to hit. Mm-hmm. It's a cool vibe. The energy's high. The music's always loud. Like, just it gets the juices flowing. It's a place you want to play, even though they're not cheering for you. Yeah. It's a fun atmosphere. So I think the energy. I think you can get rewarded for putting a good swing on a ball. Mm-hmm. Had that crazy series there this year.
Yeah.
I think 1 or 2 of those balls. I think it was like maybe it was 5 homers in like 3 games. Mm. I think one of them gets out at Chase.
Yeah.
Right? So like, now you hit them well.
Yeah.
But depending on where you're playing, you get rewarded differently.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's like cheap homers at Dodger Stadium, but I think you hit a ball well in the air, you backspin it. I think good things happen at that stadium. But then that staff, they're coming after you.
Yeah.
They're not in a big moment. They won't give in. They'll walk a guy to get to the next guy and try to play for a double play. But that's an organization that believes in their guys. They're confident in their guys, and they want their pitchers to go right after hitters.
Yeah.
And that's something that as a hitter, I want to feel in the box. I want to dig in knowing that like we're going to grind this thing out. It's not going to be like this cute nibbling game. Like they're coming right after guys. And I respect that, but it's at times it can be a fun spot to hit.
Yeah. I mean, at this point now you've got parts of 10 seasons, about over 6 years of service time. Do you ever feel like an underdog? Because when we're talking, me and Pancake are talking about you, we're like, man, Christian, I mean, I think you told me in the cage one time you were the only player in history that hit 25 homers, 100 RBIs, won a Gold Glove, and had 10 defensive runs saved, and didn't get a single MVP vote. It's the first time it's ever happened. Do you ever feel like an underdog? Maybe it's a product of when you weren't playing in a huge market. If you had those numbers in New York, you'd probably get a lot more press or whatever. Did you ever feel that, or for you was it just I'm just playing baseball and doing my job? I
do feel that. I also think I crave that.
Yeah,
I enjoy that role. I like feeling like I haven't earned it. I think it's a good spot for me to play from. It's extremely motivating.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, probably some market stuff for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't change it.
Yeah.
Definitely wouldn't change it. But I do, I like that underdog role for sure.
Well, it's worked out for sure. But 2023 World Series. Played in the College World Series, did the Major League World Series pale that in comparison? I mean, you played against the Rangers, got to play against a former teammate of ours, Jordan Montgomery. That team kind of had an underdog feel to it the whole time. We're all a wild card team, I believe. Same thing, from the losers bracket, not technically, but wild card team. Worked your way all the way to the World Series. Talk about that team. Did it have some parallels to what you felt in college? A little bit. Yeah,
the stage, absolutely. Yeah. It's we play so many games throughout the season, and the mentality is like, especially at the end when you get to the postseason, it's like the goal is to keep playing more baseball, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, 7 games left.
Yeah,
right. Like the whole thing switches, and it's like you try not to build it up, you try not to play outside yourself. Like it's all this trying to reel it back in, trying to shrink the moment. And then you go out for BP and there's 200 cameras behind the shell, and everybody wants an interview. Everybody wants this and that. And it was cool. Hard to compare to college, but a lot of things are similar there in like, for the first time in your life, you're experiencing something new again.
Yeah.
It's like you play hundreds of baseball games at every field in the country, and then all of a sudden you're nervous again stepping onto the field. Like it's a fun thing. It's cool. It's like all of a sudden, like winning is the only thing that's in focus. Yeah. Like I will gladly go 0 for 5 with 5 punch outs if like one of those is a drop third strike and it scores a run and that helps us win a game. Like you want to be on the field putting your team in a position to win at all costs.
Yeah, and I've heard guys in the World Series or Super Bowl talk about the distractions outside of just the game itself. Did you have somebody helping you with that, coordinating tickets and just letting you focus on playing?
No. It's crazy. My wife helps out a lot for sure. She's the one that's often telling people to go kick rocks when they need a ticket.
Yeah.
But like teammates, we had Longoria. He was one of my go-to guys that year. I learned so much. I loved watching him play. All of a sudden, like we were locker neighbors. It was like, man, I'm gonna soak up as much of this as I can.
Yeah.
And just cool and collected all the time. Like a guy you want to be around in those big moments. But players like that, just trying to learn from guys who've been through it.
Yeah. A guy I got to play with when I was with the Diamondbacks organization, and you got to see him firsthand. Corbin Carroll. Talk to me about him, because I was in Reno and the hitting coach walks in one day and says, Corbin Carroll's coming up. And I'm expecting, this big 6'4" superstar prospect, and this little guy walks in at like 5'9", nothing special. I said, really, this is the top 3 prospect in baseball? And then the first game, I'm like, this is one of the most impressive kids I've ever seen. Talk a little bit about getting to see his Rookie of the Year, and not only that, he's such a humble kid in the clubhouse and as quiet and nice as can be.
Yeah, you would never know anything about him by being in the same room with him. He's quiet. He does all the right things. He works so hard. Talk about an attention to detail guy.
Yeah.
But I think the most impressive thing for me was, with all those labels, all those expectations on him, he came out there and threw out a rookie year like that.
Yeah.
Like that's so hard to do. with an extension that spring training.
Yeah.
$100 million extension. It's like, talk about expectations.
Yeah.
And to come out and put up a year like that was incredible. And it's not an accident. He's going to have years much, much better than that. Like, I'm sure if you had asked him this year, he would have thought like something was going terribly wrong. Like, still finished with mid 20 homers, right? Like, he'll figure out the average thing. Like, he's one of the hardest working guys I've ever been around. And for such a young guy, just like the way he thinks about the game, the way he looks at the game, the strategy, the thoughtfulness, everything matters with that guy. And he deserves everything he's getting.
He's so impressive. I came away the same way. So just hit free agency for the first time, 3-year deal with the Astros. Talk a little bit about how tough of a decision that was. You're leaving the organization that gave you your biggest chance in the big league so far, but at the end of the day, it's also a business. Take us through a little bit of the journey of what your first, real free agency looked like and how excited you are to be with Houston.
Yeah. We had some expectations going into the offseason, but didn't know what to, expect as far as like negotiations or conversations with teams or when they reach out. Like, been through ARB, that was like the closest I've gotten, but we did feel like we had some leverage, couple of good years going into it and knowing the market and whatever, all the things was like, okay, feel confident that somebody will come after us because they value what the product I put out there. And even then it's like, there's just so many unknowns with free agency. Yeah. There's still a lot of really good players who haven't signed yet. And it's not because people don't want them. It's just like the market that year in a vacuum. It's like, who needs what, who values what, like everything matters. And in a day where front offices are constantly trying to find a gem somewhere that helps them save a little bit of money or helps them, manage somebody's service clock, like, right, all the angles where the business of it becomes very obvious. So going into free agent, we were looking forward to it. And then all of a sudden it's like Thanksgiving, nothing. You're like, all right, it's still early. And then it's like, all right, Christmas is next week. Like, what do we got? And it's like nothing. And then all of a sudden Houston called, and that was a team that Amanda and I had talked about, early in the offseason of like, this is interesting. Like, seems like it'd be a great place to play. Texas seems awesome. Yeah.
Fill a major hole for their team. I mean, they've been looking for first baseman for a couple of years now.
Yeah. You have teams that are circled of like, okay, these guys need first basemen. You'd like to think there's going to be some bidding war and like all these teams want you and you're going to be like, I want to play here. Yeah. And sometimes that happens for guys, but fortunately Houston made their move, and wasn't really much convincing needed. We were very interested in playing there. They met the number. We circled back with a couple teams, wanted to give Arizona a shot. Felt like we wanted to give the front office that opportunity. They've been great. We love playing there. I love their staff. The way they do things is good. Their communication's great. Yeah. So circled back with a couple teams and it was like, nope, Astros, let's go.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome, man. It's fun to watch from afar. Obviously we played together in college, and all my buddies you're on a lot of group texts saying, hey, Christian just got paid. So it was pretty awesome. And so you're living here in Columbia, live out in Blythewood. Do you plan on staying here long term, or you got the warm weather that you talked about, you played here, great place to raise a family and live. How's the offseason been so far, and do you plan on kind of staying in Columbia?
Yeah, offseason has been great. We do. We love this area. It feels like home. Yeah. My wife and I both grew up in the same area outside of Philly. Both of us experienced the South for the first time, and it just something felt right about the pace of living, the whole mentality. Was just something we were craving. And my wife rides horses. We got a couple horses out in Blythewood. So the goal would be, build our dream setup out in the country somewhere and disappear on a farm. And it seems like this is a good area for that.
Yeah. How has your training regimen changed from, let's say, when you were 23 to now? How old are you? 33?
33.
23 to 33. I mean, when you're 23, you're lifting a bunch of big weights, squatting, benching. And as you get older, you realize I gotta be available on the field for my team and for my teammates. How and I've gotten to see it firsthand. More stretching, more mobility. What does your training regimen look like? Because I know, like we talked about with hitting, you're very detailed oriented. Do you lay something out at the beginning of the off season and try and really stick with that?
I do. I try. I would say I try to train smarter now.
Yeah.
Like you said, at a certain point, you recover faster. When you're younger, you can move weight heavier. You can push the limit a little bit more. These days, it's all through a lens of like, how do I feel strong and stay on the field for 162 plus some? Hopefully you play longer than that. But it's a ton of mobility work. You learn more about yourself, my body. I'm a rigid mover. I'm a tight mover. It doesn't mean I'm just doing yoga, right? Because I can't change who I am and how I move.
Yeah.
It's part of what makes me good. It's why I'm strong. I have a good motor, but making sure I'm limber enough to make a good pick and stretch off the base and not, tear my hamstring or something like that. So I try to do it through a lens of like, what does my body need? Who am I on the field? And how do I stay healthy? It's a balance of heavy lifting for sure, but also a lot of accessory work, a lot of mobility, a lot of testing myself in compromising positions. And the volume, I think, is important. It's easy to get caught up in the off season and just say like, oh, I'm just resting now, I'm recovering. But I think, right now I'm in a phase of the off season approaching spring where I got to build volume.
Yeah.
I got to make sure I can show up and spend 6 hours in cleats and it's not going to kill my legs. But it definitely changes with age. Yeah.
Last couple questions. So what does Christian like to do for fun? All right, I know how your brain's wired. It's baseball, baseball, baseball. If you just wanted to relax, rewind, weekend off, what do you like to do? You mentioned your horses. I know you got a couple dogs. Is there anything in particular that you kind of want to get into as a hobby?
Yeah, so I love cooking.
Yeah.
The animals are amazing. My dogs are great. The horses are great. Being up at the farm is it's awesome. It's hard work, but it's comforting in some way where, it's gratifying. It's satisfying. It feels good to do the farm work. So that's something I enjoy. Like the idea of like buying a bunch of tractors and right, like doing stuff around the farm is sounds like a blast. If I had a weekend off at home, I'm cooking. That's something that I love doing. I love to eat. I love to cook. Barbecue is great. Something that takes a long time. It's part of the baseball brain. It's a process thing. Yeah. I like spending 16 hours cooking a brisket.
Oh yeah.
And what I did last night to prep things is going to change how it turns out. Yeah. But cooking for sure. If I'm chilling at the house, which I love doing, I'm a homebody at heart. Yeah. I'm cooking something.
Seeing the final product of that 18-hour cook come to life I'm with you. It's the best feeling in the world. But
yeah, I love that.
That's really all I got for you. Again, appreciate you taking the time. I know you're a busy guy, but just as a former teammate, it's awesome watching what you're doing. Lucky to call you a friend, and I appreciate your time, man. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been great.
So that's the second episode of Whole Lotta Glove, and I'll see you guys next week.